How's it going, guys? Odds and Ends RC here. Please like and subscribe. Today we're going to be taking a look at this TWS CTS chassis kit. It's kind of new to the market, and I've been wanting one for a while and finally got my hands on one. I got it from asiatees.com. It came from Hong Kong, and I paid for the expedited shipping, and I had it in 2 days. That's from Hong Kong to Missouri. So I was pretty happy about that. There is a cheaper shipping option you can get, but it does take longer. You can either get this chassis kit, where it does not come with a body, no motor, no electronics, no anything. Or you can get it with I believe it's like a Suzuki Sidekick or a Geo Tracker looking body. It's a pretty nice looking body, and I was wanting to get that, but they were out of stock when I ordered this, so I just went ahead and went with the chassis kit by itself. You can buy the body by itself, but I decided to wait on that. I didn't know if I wanted to go with that body or do like a Tamiya body or something like that. I was kind of interested in this because it is about the same size as the Tamiya CC01, CC02 chassis that are out there. And I've built a few of those, and I always do like Tamiya stuff, but they're just not very realistic looking. They don't have much suspension travel, and they're just kind of odd how they go together. And I figured this was a little bit more realistic option, and it was about the same price as a CC01 or CC02, so I wanted to give it a whirl. I might try using one of their bodies on here, maybe the Pajero body or the Jeep body, or a little bigger body like the Tamiya F350 or the Tundra, something like that. I figured it'd be a neat platform for this. But anyway, back to this. It has a planetary gear drive reduction on it, which is a little different than most stuff. If we take a look at the back here, kind of gives you a layout of what we're looking at. Has a ladder frame construction. It does show the motor in the picture, but it does not come with the motor. But it goes down to this planetary gear reduction, and then it has a little coupler that goes to a transfer case here. So it's kind of a little interesting, different design, but if you're wanting to put like a full interior in something, it is really level. It'd be easy to put an interior in something. You do have the option for a axle mounted servo or a chassis mounted servo. You can build it either way according to this. I believe it's front and rear, both straight axle, and I believe it's locked. It's locked axles. It does have plastic gears in the transmission and transfer case. Hopefully that holds up. Tamiya's been doing that for years, and they haven't really had any issues. Would be nice to see some metal gear upgrades in the future, though. But being this is just a trail truck, it's not like a heavy-duty rock crawler or anything, it will probably be all right. The wheels and tires kind of look like, I'm guessing, a 1.9, just judging by the picture. It does look like it has aluminum-bodied shocks, and they look like they're pretty decent quality, too. But, looks like everything else, I have to put it together and see what it's going to be like. It does have full ball bearings. Looks like it has plenty of those. But instead of boring you guys with me putting it together and taking an hour video or whatever with that, I'm just going to put it together off camera, and then we'll just go over the completed truck, and I can go over any problems I ran into or anything like that. But let me throw this thing together, and then I'll be back. Alright guys, I got it all together, and I gotta say, overall, I am pretty impressed with it. This is a pretty neat little kit here. Kind of hoping they're gonna make some maybe a full-size crawler in the future or something like that, and kind of hope they stay in the game. But overall, I was pretty impressed. Kind of go over it a little bit here. Really didn't have any big hiccups or hang-ups. The only thing was the chassis mounted servo option does not have any directions whatsoever for it. It includes all the parts, but it does not have the directions in the box for it. There is, on one page, it shows a picture of it, and it says for directions for the servo, chassis mounted servo, to go to the TWS website. And I went there and I searched and searched, tried a couple different websites, and I could not find any information on it. But I'll go over that here in a minute. It does not come with this motor. This was just a motor I had laying around. It is a 35 turn motor. I'm going to try that. It might be too slow. I don't know yet. I just stuck a Savox servo in it I had laying around. One thing I would say to watch is on this gear reduction unit here, this planetary drive, and on the transfer case. Do not over tighten any of the bolts. Just get them down snug to where the case halves go together. If you crank on the bolts, it will kind of bind up the gears. So just keep that in mind. Be careful when tightening all these bolts. This guy here, the transfer case, it went together good, but there is 3 or 4 bolts that hold the cases together, and as I was tightening them, the bolts kept getting tighter and tighter and tighter. They were 16 millimeter long bolts, I believe. And it was just, they were so tight going in the hole that I really had to wrench on them. And it was kind of hard to tell when you're all the way bottomed out. And if I had to do it over again, I would probably run a tap through the backside where the bolt threads in the hole, just so it would screw into it easier. I mean, they're high quality plastics, real durable, nothing wrong with that. It's just the holes were a little tight. And you just kind of, when you screw it down, you just want to get these case halves just kind of touching together. Just, they don't need to be cranked on whatsoever. It looked to be a 48 tooth or 48 pitch gear set in there. It does come with the pinion, but it is not 32. It looked to be 48. One thing I was not happy with is it kind of seemed like this battery tray was kind of an afterthought. I don't really care for it. This back half bolts in with 1 bolt on each side that goes under the shock tower there. There's 1 bolt come through each side, and it makes it kind of, I don't know, wiggly to where it moves around like that. I don't really care for that. And when the shock goes up and down, when it gets up toward the top, the shock itself, the spring, rubs against the bolt back there that holds this back half of the battery tray. It's not going to be too big of a problem for me because I'm going to run, a 2200 size battery. So it's kind of short anyway. So I'm going to move the mount forward to this bolt hole, and it's going to take care of that problem to where the shock's rubbing on it. So that'll fix that problem, but it will still be wobbly like that. And what this thing is, I have no clue. But they tell you to put it in with the directions. I don't know what it's supposed to do. Just sticks in the hole like that. And it even shows it facing backwards like that. So if anybody else knows in the comments, let me know. I have no clue what that does. And these things up here that kind of hold the battery in, I just kind of see them getting lost. Probably, after a few times of usage, I see somebody losing them or popping off or, not holding tight against the battery. I wish they would have came up with something better than that. Probably what I'll end up doing, depending on what body I run, is I'll probably remove this back half, remove this, and probably come up with some kind of system just to Velcro or something just to Velcro the battery in, because it's pretty flat underneath here once you remove this. The shocks themselves are really good quality shocks. They do not leak. They went together great. My only complaint, they're smooth, quiet. My only complaint on them is when you're building them, it does come with two different springs. It comes with a stiff spring, and it comes with a softer spring. So there's 8 springs total. It doesn't tell you which spring is which. You just kind of got to feel them. And in the directions, it says one is longer than the other. And mine were not. Mine were all the same length. And it's hard to tell by looking at it. You just got to kind of squinch them together and see which one is tighter. But when I first put them together, the spring itself was about an 1/8 inch, maybe to 3/16 of an inch too short, so you would have slack in the bottom of them like that. And the kit does come with these spacers up here that stiffen up the spring. They got 2 different sizes that snap in there, and it takes up that play. But I wish they would have had like a real small size, something half this size, because they got this size and one bigger. And I got the soft springs on it now, and with that spacer in there, they're kind of stiff. Depending, maybe if I run a heavy body, it'd be all right, but they're just kind of stiff. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to take the spacer back out, take the spring off, and then try to stretch them out just a little bit, kind of pull them apart, and see if that'll change to where they'll fit in there tight without this spacer thing. All the links went on great. Didn't really have any issues with that. When you put the rear end, front end together, there's this logo that snaps in this cutout for it. Put you a little dab of glue on the back of that logo, because it does not fit in there tight enough to stay in there on its own. So I just put a little tiny dab of CA glue behind it, and that should take care of it. The wheels they got pictured on the box are not the wheels that came in the kit. They have the, let's see here, like the circle style wheels in the kit. You can see here, which I kind of like those. But for some reason, they came with these slotted mag wheels here. They're not ugly or anything. I just kind of odd that it's not what's on the picture on the box. Another thing, when you're putting together the transmission and the transfer case and even in the axles, there's a bunch of pins, like if I can find it here, little metal dowel pins. Like these guys here, these pins actually go in and they lock the axle shafts in, which is a pretty neat design. I like that. It takes a lot of the slop out of the axle. But there'll be bags. There'll be several different sizes of these axles, and you got to kind of watch out because some of them look like the same size as the other ones. The booklet comes with this little scale on it. It's a millimeter scale that you can measure your bolts and measure those little pins. So pay close attention to that. You'll be using that quite a bit. The bolts they show in the pictures, the building stuff is not to size. So you will have, if it calls for a 3x8 millimeter bolt, you want to measure it on this until you kind of get the hang of it. Bearing wise, this thing is full of bearings. I would say probably it has more bearings in it than most anything else I put together. They did well on that. I was very happy with all the bearings. The gears are plastic in the transmission and in the transfer case, but they do come with a whole extra set. So if you do strip one out or tear one up, there will be an extra one in the box. The instructions are pretty clear. Some of the bags, each bag is labeled, but some of the parts that are in, it says they're in one bag. Sometimes you'll find a couple of the pieces in another bag. It's not too bad, but there's just a few bags that kind of cross over each other. You'll be taking some parts out of. The actual front differential and rear, the ring and pinion gears are very nice metal gears. Don't see any issue coming out of that. Back to the chassis mounted servo. Like I said, there was no instructions in here, and I couldn't find the instructions online. It does say, yeah, right here. It says down here, please refer to TWS website to assembly. I could not find anything on their website on this, so I just kind of guessed at it, and I think I got it right. Because I don't have any bump steer or anything, so I've got to be pretty damn close. In one of the bags, you're going to find these mounts. There's two of them that looks just like this. One goes here, and one goes back here. And they will screw into holes into the frame rails. And you will have plenty of extra bolts. There's a bunch of extra bolts too. More than enough to get this done. Just kind of pick a bolt that, looks proper to screw in, and, it'll work. So it looks like that. And the servo mounts underneath. It does not sit on top of this. It actually mounts, you can kind of see it there, it mounts underneath that. So before you put this one on, the back one, you cannot do this after it's mounted. You will need to mount the servo to this bracket with 2 bolts. Then you put the servo in and screw it to the frame. It's just the only way you can do it. You can't do it the other way. Okay, now your pan hard bar mount is right here. It's kind of a weird, there'll be I think 2 of them in the kit, but it's kind of a strange looking little mount there. It's pretty obvious what it looks like. Kind of zoom in on it maybe. Yeah, there we go. You kind of see them parts a little better. So it just mounts to the frame. There'll be a hole there for it. You can see that. Now, the other end, your actual axle mount, you can see it actually mounts to the shock. There's a long bolt. It'll be the longest bolt in the kit. And you'll replace the regular shock mount bolt, and you'll put the long bolt in there. And as far as I can tell, if you can see in there, there's a spacer I put in there. There'll be a bag with some spacers you'll have to punch out. But I don't know if that spacer is supposed to go there, but I put it there. And it just kind of makes that rod more level, look proper, doesn't hit anything. And you'll have a nut that goes on the back of there. Without that spacer, there was a bunch of thread of the bolt sticking out of the nut, so I just went ahead and put the spacer in there. Now, what you need help with is the steering rod you build like it tells you in the kit. Now this rod back here, if I can get the focus in, is rod D. It will also be in a bag, so you'll need rod D, and you will need the grub screws that screw in, and you will need the rod end links. You'll need the curved ones. They are the same ones that are used on the steering rod end. They're the most curved ones in there. There's a set that's a little bit curved, and then there's these that are a lot curved. You'll need 2 of the ones that are a lot curved. So you'll need 2 of those. You'll need this bar, which is the D bar. And then you'll need the grub screws to hook them together. So once you assemble that, this is the perfect length. It screws on that panhard mount bar there. Just look for a bolt that screws in plenty. And then, like I said, you'll use your shock hole right in there. The bolt that goes through the shock. It'll be one of the longest bolts in the kit. You'll put it through the shock mount. You put that little spacer on there I was telling you about. And then you put your rod end on, and then your nut. And I took off one of the upper links. You can see I got one missing. It don't seem like you need to do that, but if you pay attention and you cycle the suspension with that other upper rod end on there, the suspension kind of binds up. The way a chassis mounted servo works is when your suspension is going up and down, your axle actually kind of moves this way and that way just a hair. So with that 4th link in there, that upper link, it's not going to be able to do that, and it kind of binds everything up. So leave one out when you're building it, or take one out if you're going to do the chassis mounted servo. Other than that, the drive shafts went together great. No issues with that. Tires and wheels went together really nicely. It has some nice soft foams in it. They are vented wheels. It's going to be kind of hard. I don't think, if you want to go with a 155 wheel, I don't think it's going to fit, because the knuckle here, being as it has such an extreme knuckle angle, the knuckle would hit the inside of the wheel on a 155, unless you've got a big offset on it. I was kind of disappointed on that. But other than that, guys, I mean, every kit you buy, there's going to be something with it. You know, there's going to be something quirky. There's going to be something off. So this being a new thing on the market, I think it's great. You know, every kit's going to have their little flaws. But I'm totally impressed. Oh, one other thing. All the bolts, they're all hex bolts. No Phillips screwdriver crap. All hex bolts. And I did not strip out a one. Every single one of them went in without stripping out. The heads didn't strip out. They were awesome. Other than that, I got to put some electronics in it, and it'll be ready to try out. On the next video, I did get this budget speed control everybody's been going on about, this ISDT70. And I've seen some bad reviews on it. I've seen some good reviews on it. I think we're going to throw it on there and try it. It was $25 off of Amazon. And pretty much on everything else, I used the Hobby Wing 80. And, you know, it works great. And they're saying this has more options than the Quick Run 80. So we're going to try it out and see what happens in the next video. But thanks for watching, guys. If you guys have any tips or know anything about this, leave it in comments. But I was more than happy with it. I totally recommend it, but we'll see how it runs. Thanks for watching.